I'm here at the National Association of Real Estate Editors Conference, and I'm talking with Kevin Kessinger, President and COO of Trademark Property, about trends in the retail space. Kevin, thanks for joining me.
Happy to be here.
Okay, so what's going on in retail?
Is it fair to say lots is going on in retail? It's where I've spent most of my career, which goes back, I'll just say decades without dating myself more specifically than that. And there's never been, I don't think, a more exciting time in retail. Part of it is just the stability of what are some very seasoned retailers that have survived the immersion of e-commerce, that have survived COVID, that have survived multiple economic cycles. And so a core group of retailers, the household names, we feel very good about. But there's also an exciting group of experiential concepts. There's a convergence between use types within the same property. Couple all that with the dynamics of trying to figure out how millennials shop differently than Gen X, than Gen Z, and it makes for a pretty compelling story right now.
Okay, and tell us about your property with Netflix.
So Galleria Dallas, an iconic mall, recently rated number 3 mall in the country. I'll take a bronze medal given the number of quality malls that we have. There was a former department store. It was a Belk department store that was underperforming. And last year we were able to announce that we'd signed a deal with Netflix House. It was one of 2 in the country, the other one being out in Philadelphia. They released a new piece this morning. They're going to be opening a little later this year. And it really is an impressive approach toward experiential retail in a mall environment, to take what is a broad platform like Netflix that has compelling stories with Squid Games, Bridgerton, and Great British Bake Off, and to try to put that into a brick and mortar format, that's challenging. But from the renderings we've seen, it's going to be a pretty impressive concept.
And there will still be the traditional mall tenants alongside them? Still
be traditional mall tenants alongside them. And when you think about that, when you think about what attracts people to a mall like Galleria Dallas, unlike some of the brick and mortar centers, or the open air centers rather, where I spent a good portion of my career that were the strip center type or the community anchor type that serve a wonderful purpose for a community, but you don't have a lot of cross shopping at those assets. Your shopper comes in, parks relatively close to the store, shops, and leaves. With a property like Galleria, Netflix House can bring you there, but then to have access to the anchors, to have access to the shopping there, to have access to the ice rink, to have access to Snow Day, which is really cool if you've not yet been. That's what keeps people coming back, and it's pretty powerful in terms of driving new traffic to the center.
It sounds really exciting. What are some of the other development trends that you're seeing?
So mixed use, if that's not too generic a label, but when we look at trying to get a ground up development to attract capital to that, you attract equity investors, you attract lenders to those projects. Even with the strong tailwinds that we see right now on the retail side, there's an element with adding another use type, multifamily, for example, and even in some instances, the right amount of purpose-built office, if you can believe it. It diversifies the risk for the investors, for the lenders, for other stakeholders to know that as long as it takes between inception and delivery of these projects, I'm sure you've seen over the course of your career projects that were envisioned into a bull market but then delivered into a bear market, and for that dynamic to happen in a single use type is much more likely than in multiple use types. And so mixed use is certainly something that we're seeing. It's interesting too, parking is something that is evolving, right? The most basic push-pull I can describe in prior development, cycles was an insistence by many municipalities to make sure there was ample parking with good reason. You didn't want to have a center that overtaxed the surrounding areas, but with recognition that the way we travel these days, we share rides. I still have a vision that we can get these automated cars on the road pretty quickly, so I'm dealing with less distracted drivers around me. But the notion that you don't need as much parking as you once did, the notion that a sea of parking between the street and a storefront is not what you're really looking for. The walkable is more what you're looking for. That's been something that we've seen evolving, in development. And then just really thoughtfully curated spaces, right? At least for Trademark, and there are certainly other developers that have a different model, but for us, knowing that what's ultimately going to generate long-term returns for the community and long-term returns for our investors has to center around some type of community gathering places, right? We're looking to be that third place, right? You have your home, you have your work. We want the third place where people want to gather.
Right, sort of what the mall used to be.
But the mall still is in some areas. I was talking with some of the folks on our development team recently too. As central business districts are evolving, right? My daughter happens to live in New York City, and certainly New York City is back in terms of the number of people in offices there, but that's not the case all across the country. And so you have many people who just aren't downtown as much as they used to. Maybe they're not entirely remote, but they're not downtown as much as they used to. But there were things about being downtown that they really liked. They liked the cooler, neater places. They liked different concepts, not cookie cutter concepts. And so if they're in the suburbs now, as much as they used to be downtown, how do we replicate for them what they liked about downtown in a suburban environment? That's been a really fun challenge we're trying to tackle.
How about the sales market? I hear there's a lot of retail properties for sale.
There are. I wish there were more. I'll say that. One of the obvious byproducts of all the tariffs that we're hearing about right now is uncertainty in the market. And so when there's uncertainty, capital transactions, acquisitions and dispositions tend to pause, maybe outright freeze. When interest rates climb at levels we haven't seen in a long time, there's a pause. I don't want to buy, I don't want to sell. There's too big a gap between the bid and the ask. It's certainly fair to say that sellers are tired of waiting, and they're putting some product out to the market. The buyers are anxiously awaiting that property, the properties to hit the market. And so you're right that there's a lot that's out there, but I think it's attracting very deep buyer pools. We just closed on a sale today. We sold an asset that we've had in the Fort Worth area for a long time, and we were very pleased with the way the market responded to the asset, the pricing that we got for it. And so there's a lot. I wish there was more.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Happy to do it.